Saint Lucia, mama, that's the land of my birth. Welcome, welcome to Saint.
Hey Floriana, good morning. We've got us some folk song music today. Good morning, John. Right? I haven't heard it in such a long time. I don't even know how my son found it. Alright, bonjour tout le monde, aujourd'hui c'est vendredi, il disait, et puis top pour l'épisode of Rum Shop Talks. Good morning everyone, it is Friday, 10 a.m. and it is time for another episode of Rum Shop Talks. So today we are going to do our usual, like I've mentioned before, we are working through the Chairman's Cocktail menu set, and so we've got a new Chairman's drink for you guys today. I am actually introducing a new Chairman's rum, and this one is the Chairman's Spiced Rum. As you can see, it's brand new, haven't been, good morning Kiki, haven't been cracked into yet. So we'll be cracking into our spiced rum for this drink, and today we'll be making the Chairman's cable car. And super easy ingredients. I love super easy ingredients, you guys. There is one that has about like 6 or 7 ingredients. I'm saving this one for like a special, like, you know, occasion. But we only need 3 ingredients for the cable car. We are going to use our shaker today. So we need 2 ounces of the spiced rum. Oh, smells so good. Smells like Christmas. It has like, you can smell the cinnamon and cloves and wabade, which is like a St. Lucian spice. It smells almost like Chini 12. For you St. Lucians out there, yeah, this smells almost like Chini 12. So excited for a drink made of that. So 2 ounces. This is our little 1 ounce shot glass here. So I should probably put ice in my shaker, right? Yeah. Let's do that first. Ice in the shaker. And on today's Rum Shop, for our legal portion, I just figured I'd, like, you know, kind of clue you guys in on what we're talking about today. I will be answering a question that came up, and I actually had a case relating to this question. So I will share with you guys the question, the answer, and I will give you guys a little preview of how my case went. Excited about it. So 1 ounce here, and then 2 ounces. 2 ounces of that Chairman's spice. I want to make sure I put that cap on it because I don't want to lose. I'm prone to tripping and hitting things, and I don't want to lose my rum. So then we're gonna do a 3/4 ounce of Creole shrub. You guys have seen me use this in probably like the last 2 recipes. And so the Creole shrub is a orange liqueur, and so I imagine you could probably like swap this for, you know, your Creole liqueur. I like it because it's from Martinique, and of course I want to make the drinks as authentic as I can, so I try to like source the actual ingredients. But you guys can use whatever you've got available to you. So we've got a 3/4, I just eyeball that by the way, but a 3/4 ounce of the Creole shrub and 1 ounce of freshly squeezed lemon juice. So we're not using limes today, we're using lemon juice for this one. All right, and we're like gonna grab our little shaker here and go shake crazy. I don't know if you guys don't know this yet, but I have a lot of fun showing up here every Friday and making rum drinks for you guys. It is probably one of the highlights of my week. So I'm always excited when you guys join me because you let me, you know, play around with something that's fun for me. And making rum drinks has become my new fun thing. And as you can see, I have my glass here already prepared. Got a little slice of a lemon skin on here, and the rim of the glass is sugared. And what I did was I just squeezed out like the orange and just got it all wet and dipped it in sugar. I'm using a different kind of sugar, like sugar in the raw lately, so that's kind of what's in there right now. And look at this. Super pretty looking drink, you guys. It does look like a little orange. Smells good. Ooh, I like a lot. That is very good. It is tangy from the lemon juice, but and you get all the spices from that spice rum, but you also taste that sugar, which gives you, and the sugar from the spice rum and from the Creole shrub gives you a nice, like, you know, pop of flavor. Like my taste buds are still watering, you guys, from how like powerfully, flavorful that was, but so good. So I don't know how much work I will be getting done today. I might just want to finish that off when we're done here. And so I'm gonna put the proportions on the comments below after this live. And so we're just gonna jump into our question of the day, our legal question of the day. So question that we're gonna be answering today is, and I actually took notes because I wanted to make sure I actually covered this in a way that for people who are facing this situation, they can actually have like steps on what to do. So the question is, my mom just recently died, and she had a living trust. The house is listed as an asset on the schedule of assets of the trust. However, the deed for the house lists the house in mom's name as individually and not as a trust. So the question is, what are our options? So when you guys have heard me talk about the fact that when you have a trust, you need to put the assets in the trust. If you don't put the assets in the trust, then those assets typically have to go through probate to get administered as part of the estate. And so because the trust helps us avoid probate. So in this situation, the solution, if you're in California, for that particular family is what we call a Hagestad petition, or it's called a petition to determine claim of property. And so what a Hagestad petition does, it's based on a long ago case, the estate of Hagestad. What it does, it allows us to actually petition a court to confirm that that asset that was left outside of the trust is actually a trust asset. It lets us then have that asset funded retroactively into the trust. What does that do? So what do we have to have to be able to use? Because not every piece of property that is left outside of a trust can be administered using the Hagestad petition. So what do we have to have to avail ourselves of this nifty little solution? You need to have either a schedule of assets listing the property as a trust asset, and I'll tell you guys why that is the case. Or we need to have a assignment of property covering this type of asset. So an assignment of property just basically says, I leave this asset or this type of asset or this class of assets to my trust. And so in this situation, we would want an assignment of property that covers real property as an asset that is to be part of the trust. Or we have what we call a pour over will, indicating that any assets that were left outside of the trust, we want those assets to be funded into the trust. So the petition needs to clearly show that the people who created the trust intended for that asset to be a trust asset. Otherwise, the petition won't be successful. And so we want to make sure that we can show that intent, like I said, with those one or combination of those three options. And what does that give us? Why not just do a full probate? Well, probates are lengthy. Usually a probate takes about a year and a half, sometimes 2 years for a simple probate, no complications, about 1.5 to 2 years to go through the entire process to the point where we're distributing the assets. And so where you want to be able to, where you have a piece of real property and you want to get that into the trust very quickly, you don't want to have to wait for a year and a half to go through that. Also, a lengthy probate is also more costly. And so using the Hegestad petition not only allows a family who's grieving to save time, it also helps them to save cost as well. And so that is why it's very good for us when we have an asset that's outside of the trust, and we can use the Hegestad petition to get that in. So story time. I actually just on Tuesday I had my first remote hearing. I got to do it from the comfort of my house. It was actually pretty exciting. Oh, John says, question: if my house is funded in my trust, will it be titled in the name of my trust? Yeah. So if your house is funded in your trust, it will read this way: my name. So for example, if my home is funded in my trust, it will say Jan Meyer as trustee of the Meyer Family Trust. If it doesn't say that and it just says Jan Meyer, then the assumption is it's not funded in my trust. So we want to make sure, and that's a very good question, John. For you guys out there who have trusts that were created, you definitely want to look at your deeds and see how it is, how the title is listed. If it's listed in just your names, it's not part of your trust. You want to make sure you have a new deed executed, titling it, like I said, in your name as trustee of your trust. All right, awesome. Okay, so back to the story. So I was gushing about, like, remote hearings, but we can move past that. So I have a client. He and his wife created a revocable trust, revocable family trust, and they intended to transfer their properties into their trust. The trust had there was a schedule, but the big thing for us, we had an assignment of property. And so the husband's wife passes, and then the husband goes and tries to sell. He thinks he's done this. He's executed some deeds, and he thinks he's put the assets into the trust. So he goes to sell the property, and he finds out that at least 6 of the pieces of property he cannot sell because they were not properly transferred into his trust. So what are some ways that you can end up not having property transferred, funded into your trust when you think it is? One way is this example of my client, where the way that the title was listed on the deeds actually ended up just giving he and his wife tenants in common interest. It didn't actually transfer the property into the trust. So that's one thing. Another thing that happens very often is where the lawyer, puts the property in the trust, and then the person goes to refinance their home, and the title company pulls the property outside of the trust to do the refi. And then what happens is the client thinks the title company, since they pulled it, put the property back, and the title company did not. Hey Tess, good morning. And the title company does not. And sometimes we can catch this. If the client comes back in, I can catch that this wasn't happen. That did not happen. Often enough, we catch it after the client has passed away and we are facing this situation. So back to my client. He finds out after his wife has passed away that they have property that's tenants in common. So when you have property that is tenants in common with a spouse, what that means is I own 50%. My spouse owns 50%. There is no right of survivorship. So in order for my spouse to get because my 50% can go wherever I want it to go. So in order for my spouse to get my 50%, we actually have to take that property and go through probate and ask the probate court to give that 50% to my spouse. And if I have children who would have an interest in this and my children want it, then we have a court battle on our hands. So we want to avoid that as much as possible. In this situation, there was only one beneficiary, and the beneficiary was okay with having the property be held in trust according to his mom's wishes. And so what we did was we used the Hegestad petition, a petition to determine the claim of the property as the properties as trust assets. So this actually took us a little bit longer than usual. I filed the petition in August, and we had a March hearing, and you guys all know what happened in March, right? We ended up with the courts shutting down. So my hearing actually ended up being continued 3 different times while we were quarantined. And then of course we had our hearing on Tuesday, and the petition was approved. So what that means now is I get to file new deeds, doing it properly this time, listing my client as owner of the property, just as trustee, not owner in name and ownership, but owner as in being the trustee. So the new deeds are going to read my client as trustee of my client's revocable trust. And as you can see, I'm like super smiling and beaming because it was really great to be able to email my client on Tuesday and let him know that this petition was approved. Like I said, it took us a year to do it. Ordinarily, it wouldn't have. A Hegestad petition usually takes about 6 months, and sometimes less than that based on how efficient the court is running. And so, and it's not gonna cost my client nearly as much for doing it this way than it would have if we had done the full probate. And we had, because with probates we are, our fees are usually controlled by the probate court. So we basically use the statutory fee for probates, and that statutory fee would have been a lot higher than it is with me doing an hourly rate thing for my client here. So of course, as an estate planner, I tell my clients all the time, and I will say it to you guys here, my little nugget of wisdom: make sure that your assets are actually funded in your trust and they're done properly. If you're gonna hire a lawyer to do your estate plan, then pay the lawyer a little extra and make sure that those assets are funded in properly. If you have any questions while you're funding, it's better to call your lawyer and pay the lawyer the hourly fee to answer that question than to find out then your family to find out after you've passed away that it wasn't done right, and then they're where my client was, having to pay more money on top of what they've already spent to get this done, administering it and making sure it's fixed. And so that is like my nugget. Make sure your assets are funded properly in there. And if you guys have any questions, you can pop them down in the comments below. And like I've said, from 2 weeks ago until November 3rd, I will be encouraging you guys to go out and vote. So today's go out and vote message actually deals with college kids who are not home. So a lot of parents had to drop their kids off in different states or different counties, but a lot of people had to drop their kids off in different states, and this really does apply to those kids. And the kid wants to vote, and so essentially the way this works is that child can actually register to vote using either his California address, which is family's address, or his college address. However, you cannot register to vote in 2 different places in one election cycle. So if you've already registered in California, then you have to vote in California unless you do a new registration in the state that you're living in and vote there. So for you guys with college kids out there, if your college kids want to vote in a California election and they're in a different state, have them register to vote using either address, but making sure that they go online to register.ca.gov. That's register.ca.gov, and get themselves signed up for a mail-in ballot so that they can cast their vote. If they do it now, then it means that their ballots will come early and they'll be able to cast and get the results counted in the November 3rd election. we are pushing for mass flooding to the polls this year. I want to encourage you guys who may be on the fence, who may be questioning whether your vote counts. The truth is, every vote counts. Every vote matters. It's your right. You want to exercise that, because when you exercise your right, then guess what it gives you? The right to complain when the people that you elected are not doing their jobs, right? And it gives you the right to be able to actually say something. Okay, so definitely get registered to vote. Damien, where can I find a library of these episodes by topics? I know you are sharing good information here. Damien, we have a YouTube page that we have been slowly posting our videos on. And then the description actually has the topic that we discuss. I'm gonna get my assistant to get on top of making sure those are like updated, but there are a couple of videos on there that you can go check out. They're also a lot of them are also on my Facebook business page. So if you just search the law office of Jan A. Meyer, you can actually get some of those videos on there. And if you guys are not liking Jan Meyer, the law office of Jan Meyer on Facebook, please go on there, because we are always sharing, like, you know, nuggets of wisdom throughout the week on our social media. And of course, I'm gonna totally plug and ask you guys to go find us on Instagram, Meyer Esquire, so MEYER Family Protection on Instagram. And like I said, we're always sharing information on there, so definitely go join the law office of Jenny and Maya family. If there's no other questions, thank you, Damien. If there's no other questions, I thank you guys so much for stopping in on this beautiful Friday morning. You have a wonderful Friday, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you guys next week for another episode of Rum Shop Talk. I'm gonna take a little sip here of my